1960s and early 1970s, Highgate Cemetery in London became the epicenter of a terrifying and unsettling media frenzy, a frenzy that would give birth to one of the most chilling urban legends of the 20th century, the Highgate Vampire. The cemetery, known for its Gothic architecture and crumbling tombstones, had always been a place of mystery, but it was the rumours that swirled around it during this time that would send a chill through the city. It began with strange sightings. People reported seeing a tall, shadowy figure with piercing red eyes lurking among the tombs, moving with unnatural speed and disappearing into the darkness. A local woman claimed to have seen a man with pale, lifeless skin standing by a crypt, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that sent her running in fear. Others spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread that would wash over them whenever they entered the cemetery at night, as if something or someone was watching from the shadows. The stories quickly escalated, and soon rumours spread of a vampire living in the heart of Highgate Cemetery. Witnesses claimed to have seen the vampire rise from its grave, its eyes glowing with hunger, as it stalked the grounds in search of blood. Some even reported hearing strange sounds in the night, howls, whispers, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the graveyard silence. The sensation reached its peak when a group of amateur vampire hunters, led by David Farrant and Sean Manchester, set out to confront the creature. They claimed to have performed rituals to exorcise the vampire, but the truth remained elusive. Many who ventured into the cemetery never returned, and those who did spoke only of an overwhelming darkness that seemed to close in around them. To this day, Highgate Cemetery remains a place of eerie quiet and suspicion. The legend of the Highgate Vampire continues to haunt the minds of those who dare to visit, and the truth behind the sightings remains buried in the shadows, where no one dares to look too closely. In the quiet wooded landscape of Wisconsin, there's a chilling mystery that lingers in whispers and half-forgotten memories. According to legend, there once was a town named Doveland, a small, close-knit community with friendly neighbours and quiet streets. Yet, by the early 1990s, Doveland had disappeared without a trace. Not merely abandoned or decayed, but entirely erased, as if it had never existed. Today, there are no maps, no records, not even a mention of it in official documents. Yet, people swear they remember it, and others carry fragments of its memory in objects and eerie recollections. Locals and former residents insist they once visited or even lived in Doveland. They recall the roads, the town square, the shops, and the lake that glistened under summer skies. Some claim they have souvenirs, t-shirts, postcards, or even keychains that bear the name Doveland, Wisconsin. These objects are rare, kept like relics, though the origins are lost and faded, as if each one were a relic from a place beyond reach. Those who find themselves in possession of these objects describe an uneasy feeling, as if they hold a piece of something that wasn't meant to be remembered. The most unnerving aspect of the legend is that no one seems to agree on what happened to Doveland. Some say it was the result of a government experiment gone wrong, a project that shattered the fabric of reality itself. Others whisper about a tragedy so horrific that the town was erased to protect outsiders from its dark secrets. And still, there are those who believe Doveland simply simply slipped through a crack in time, disappearing into another dimension, leaving only the faintest of imprints in our world. Strangers passing through the area where Doveland once stood often report feeling lost or uneasy, as if they're being watched by something unseen. There are other eerie reports as well. Travellers say that on certain nights they've seen faint lights through the trees and heard the distant sounds of music and laughter, as though a town was still there, celebrating in the darkness. Some even say they've glimpsed ghostly figures in the shadows, walking along non-existent streets, whispering words that dissolve in the wind. People who claim to have lived in Doveland share an unsettling commonality. They all experience recurring dreams of returning to the town, walking familiar streets, greeted by familiar faces, faces they now cannot remember. They wake with a sense of deep loss, as if a part of themselves was left behind in that town that no longer exists. Strangers who visit the region sometimes describe feeling a magnetic pull to a place that doesn't appear on any map, or an intense sense of déjà vu, like they've stepped into a place they once knew but cannot recall. Doveland, Wisconsin remains an enigma, a town lost to time, or perhaps to something far darker. Its absence lingers like a wound, and those who remember it are left with the eerie feeling that a piece of reality has slipped away, taking with it a slice of their own lives. The mystery of Doveland hangs like a shadow over the region, a strange void that beckons to those who seek it, yet warns of dangers hidden within forgotten places. For those who dare to remember or seek to uncover its secrets, there's always the haunting question: what happens to those who dig too deep into a place that was never meant to be found? Clinton Road, a desolate stretch of asphalt in the heart of New Jersey, is infamous for its eerie atmosphere and the legends that cling to it like a cold mist. One of the most chilling of these stories is the tale of the ghost boy who haunts the old bridge along the road, forever waiting in the dark for those brave or foolish enough to seek him out. The legend begins with a tragic tale of a young boy who died under mysterious circumstances many years ago. Some say he drowned in the murky waters beneath the bridge. Others whisper that he was a victim of an accident, but no one truly knows. What is certain, however, is that his spirit never left the bridge. Instead, it lingered, bound to the spot by the horrors of his untimely death, waiting for those who might encounter him in the dead of night. The story goes that if you visit the bridge on a quiet, moonless night and throw a coin into the dark waters below, something strange will happen. At first, it might seem like nothing more than a silly superstition, but as the night stretches on, the air will begin to feel heavy, thick with an unnatural silence. The shadows around the bridge will grow deeper, and you may feel an unsettling chill on the back of your neck, as if you're being watched. Then, if you return to the spot after a time, you may find the coin you tossed into the water resting at your feet, returned to you as though by some unseen hand. At first, it's easy to dismiss this as coincidence. Perhaps the current brought it back, or it was there all along. But those who have returned again and again tell a different tale. The coin isn't just lying in the same spot, it's placed right in front of you, as if someone or something wants you to find it. But the most chilling part of the story is the boy, some say. In the moments before the coin is returned, they've seen him, standing just out of reach, a small, pale figure. His face is obscured in the darkness, but his eyes are unmistakable, empty, hollow, staring at you with an otherworldly intensity. He does not speak. He simply watches, waiting. And when you turn away, even for a second, the coin is there. Returned as if by magic, the boy's intentions remain unclear. Is he trying to communicate, twisted game he plays with those who dare approach. No one knows, but one thing is certain. There is something deeply unsettling about the presence that haunts that bridge. Many claim that after encountering the ghost boy, they feel an overwhelming sense of unease, a feeling that they are never truly alone, no matter where they go. And so the legend of the ghost boy persists, drawing thrill seekers and curious souls to Clinton Road, where the line between life and death seems thinner than anywhere else. But for those who dare venture near the bridge, remember this: once you make contact with the boy, once you feel his eyes upon you, it may be too late to ever leave that haunted place behind, because some spirits never let go. In the eerie silence of Bucksport Cemetery, Maine, stands a towering obelisk, a seemingly ordinary monument, yet one that bears a sinister mark. This is the memorial of Jonathan Buck, a man remembered not just for his life, but for the curse that darkens his legacy. Etched onto the stone, like an ominous scar, is the unmistakable shape of a woman's stocking-clad foot, or perhaps a boot, a symbol both strange and chilling. Legend whispers that Buck, a man of influence in his time, condemned a woman to death for witchcraft. Her screams filled the air as the flames rose, but before she was silenced, she cursed him with her dying breath. "I shall haunt you," she vowed, "and mark your grave as a sign of your cruelty." Townsfolk say Buck scoffed, dismissing her words as the ravings of a vengeful spirit. But as the years passed, the curse began to take form. After Buck's death, an obelisk was raised in his honour. Soon, whispers emerged that a strange mark had appeared, a single, ghostly footprint of a woman's stockinged foot, etched deeply and inexplicably into the stone. No tools could erase it. Attempts to scrub it away only seemed to deepen the impression, as if the spirit herself were renewing her claim. Visitors to the cemetery tell of an unsettling presence around Buck's grave. Some report feeling a chill creeping over them, or catching sight of a shadowy figure in the corner of their eye, an outline of a woman standing near the cursed obelisk, her gaze fixed coldly upon it. Local law insists that this ghostly figure is the woman Buck condemned, bound forever to the stone, her foot branded there as a mark of vengeance. Over the years, strange misfortunes have befallen those who mock the legend or touch the footprint in jest. A man who dared to trace the outline of the foot with his hand fell ill the next day, his fevered dreams haunted by the spectre of a woman's boot pressing down on his chest, as if crushing the breath from him. Others have reported feeling an inexplicable weight upon them, a pressure that lingers long after they've left the cemetery. The curse of Jonathan Buck's memorial endures, a ghostly reminder of a promise made in fire and fury. And so, the warning stands. Those who approach this cursed obelisk may find themselves marked by forces that lie beyond, trapped forever in the shadow of a vengeful spirit's wrath. by distributing LSD-laced temporary tattoos disguised as innocent stickers or lick and stick tattoos. These tattoos, often said to feature blue stars, butterflies, or other fun designs, were believed to be soaked in LSD, a potent hallucinogenic drug. The legend typically portrayed a scenario where unsuspecting children would receive these tattoos from strangers or through the mail. Once the tattoo was applied to the skin, the drug would allegedly seep through the pores, causing hallucinations and potentially dangerous effects. The myth gained significant traction through warning flyers distributed by schools, community organisations, and even police departments, urging parents to be vigilant about what their children brought home. One common version of the story described the tattoos being handed out at playgrounds or schools by individuals looking to get children addicted to drugs at an early age. The tattoos were described as brightly coloured and appealing to kids, further feeding into the panic. Some variations of the legend claimed that these drug-laced tattoos were being sold in candy wrappers or other common items that children might encounter. Despite the widespread panic that the blue star tattoo legend caused, there was never any verifiable evidence to support the claims. No confirmed cases of children being harmed by LSD-laced tattoos were ever reported. However, the fear it instilled in communities was very real, leading to increased warnings and stricter scrutiny of items given to children by strangers. Experts have since debunked the legend, explaining that LSD is unlikely to be absorbed through the skin in the way the myth suggested. Additionally, the idea of drug dealers giving away expensive drugs like LSD to children for free was deemed highly improbable. The legend, like many urban myths, played on the fears of parents during a time when drug use and awareness were on the rise, particularly in schools. In retrospect, the blue star tattoo legend is an example of how misinformation and fear can spread rapidly along the mist-shrouded waters of Wyoming's Platte River. Locals whisper of a spectral vessel that has haunted the river for centuries. Known as the death ship of the Platte River, this ghostly apparition appears suddenly, cutting through the fog with an unnatural silence that chills even the bravest souls who witness it. Those who have seen it claim it's no ordinary ship, but a cursed harbinger of doom, a warning of death for those unfortunate enough to catch a glimpse of its decaying masts and spectral crew. The ship is said to be a battered, ancient vessel, its once proud sails now tattered and hanging limply, though no wind stirs them. The entire ship glows with an eerie, grey light, casting an unnatural pallor over the river as it moves silently, with no sign of rippling water to mark its path. Its wooden hull appears worn and rotting, covered in strange mosses and barnacles, yet it glides as if untouched by time. Witnesses recount that the ghostly ship seems to be staffed by a crew of shadowy figures, barely distinguishable from the mist that clings to the riverbanks. These phantom sailors stand deathly still, their hollow eyes staring blankly ahead, as though seeing a world beyond the living. The sight of them is enough to paralyse anyone who dares to watch, their forms flickering like candle flames in the fog, silent, yet filled with an overwhelming sense of dread. According to legend, those who see the death ship of the Platte River are destined to witness a death, often their own or that of someone close to them. Stories tell of pioneers and river travellers who encountered the ghostly vessel and soon after met tragic ends. One tale describes a fisherman who spotted the ship gliding down the river on a foggy morning. Mesmerised, he watched as one of the ghostly sailors extended a bony hand, especially under mysterious circumstances. Another chilling account recalls a young couple who were boating on the river at dusk when the ship emerged from the fog. They watched in horror as the crew seemed to look straight through them, their empty eyes filled with a cold indifference to the living. Days later, the couple's bodies were discovered on the riverbank, their boat overturned, and no explanation for their sudden deaths. The death ship of the Platte River is no mere phantom tale. Locals swear by its appearances, warning travellers not to linger by the river when the fog thickens, especially near Alcova and Torrington. It's a grim reminder that some spirits do not rest, and that some waters are forever cursed. The ship drifts onward, a harbinger of death, carrying the souls of its doomed crew, forever bound to the Platte's dark, winding course. In the still, silent nights of Fresno, California, an unsettling legend stalks the imagination of locals, the Fresno night crawlers. First captured on CCTV footage, these strange, otherworldly creatures have haunted the town's darkened streets, their appearance as bizarre as it is terrifying. Described as white, elongated beings with impossibly long legs and tiny, featureless torsos, they move with an eerie, almost hypnotic gait, as if gliding rather than walking. To many, they resemble nothing more than disembodied, ghostly pairs of trousers, yet their unsettling presence is anything but laughable. The first sighting came from a homeowner who, curious about strange noises outside, reviewed their security footage. What they saw left them speechless. Two pale figures emerging from the shadows, their legs stretched unnaturally tall, each step slow and deliberate, almost as if they were floating. The smaller of the two trailed behind, its movement unnervingly synchronized with the larger one. As they vanished into the night, the homeowner was left with a chilling realization. Whatever these beings were, they were not human. The footage quickly spread, drawing the attention of cryptid enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Some claimed the night crawlers were extraterrestrial visitors, their strange forms adapted to a planet with gravity unlike Earth's. Others whispered that they were spirits, ancient guardians tied to the land, warning of some impending doom. Still, others feared they were harbingers of something far darker, beings from another dimension, crossing into our world for reasons unknown. The sightings didn't stop. Reports emerged of people spotting the night crawlers in nearby woods, gliding silently among the trees, their spindly forms illuminated by the pale light of the moon. Hikers described the forest growing unnaturally quiet, the air thick with unease, as if the creatures were aware of their presence and watching from just out of sight. Some who encountered them spoke of an overwhelming dread, a primal fear that gripped their hearts and left them paralyzed. Locals now warn against wandering too far into the dark Fresno woods, especially at night. Those who've ventured too close to where the night crawlers have been seen report strange phenomena, unexplainable static on devices, sudden cold spots, and faint whispering sounds that seem to follow them home. To this day, no one knows what the Fresno night crawlers are or what they want. Skeptics dismiss them as clever hoaxes or optical illusions, but those who've seen the footage or encountered them firsthand tell a different story. They believe the night crawlers are watching, observing humanity with motives shrouded in mystery. Their slow, silent steps are warning to stay away. The Fresno night crawlers remain one of the most bizarre and chilling cryptid tales in modern folklore, a reminder that some things move through the shadows of our world, unnoticed until they choose to reveal themselves, leaving nothing but fear in their wake. In the shadowed corridors of the uncanny, where art meets the supernatural, there echoes the unsettling legend of the crying boy. This painting, a massive mass-produced print by the Italian artist, known both as Giovanni Bragolin and Bruno Amadio, has stirred whispers of a curse since it first appeared in the 1950s. The portrait, depicting the tear-streaked face of a young boy with deep, sorrowful eyes, became a common fixture in homes across Europe, initially cherished for its poignant depiction of innocence and grief. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly benign artwork, darker forces seemed to lurk. The legend began to take shape in the 1980s, when a series of mysterious fires devastated numerous homes throughout England. Amidst the charred ruins, firefighters made a chilling discovery. While the flames consumed almost everything in their path, the prints of the crying boy survived unscathed. In one house after another, the painting was found amongst the ashes, its glass cover often the only thing left intact. These bizarre occurrences were first reported in a 1985 article in the Sun newspaper, which chronicled the strange phenomenon, igniting widespread fear and superstition. The tale grew more sinister with each telling. It was said that the boy in the painting was a foundling, taken in by Amadio, who discovered the child weeping beside the smouldering ruins of a building that had claimed his parents. Moved by his plight, Amadio captured the boy's eternal sorrow on canvas. However, dark rumours swirled that the artist had exploited the child's curse, for the boy was no ordinary orphan. Legend had it that wherever he resided, fires of unknown origin would inexplicably ignite. As the cursed painting's fame spread, so did accounts of misfortune attributed to it. Owners of the print reported inexplicable series of bad luck, with numerous testimonies of personal tragedies that befell those who displayed the painting in their homes. Some spoke of hearing the soft sobs of a child at night, the cries echoing through hallways, only to find the painting's eyes brimming with tears, as if the boy mourned not only his fate, but also that of those who gazed upon him. Frightened by these tales, many sought to rid themselves of the painting. Yet, disposing of the crying boy proved no simple task. Stories emerged of the prints being found intact at local dumps, or returning to hang on the walls they had once adorned, despite being thrown away. Others who attempted to burn the painting found that it resisted the flames, the boy's face peering out through the fire, his tears reflecting the inferno around him. Some curious souls, skeptics of the supernatural, delved into the painting's history, seeking rational explanations. They proposed that the varnish used by Amadio might have been flame retardant, a common practice among painters who wished to protect their work. Yet, no scientific explanation could fully dispel the aura of dread surrounding the image. The legend of the crying boy took on a life of its own, a modern myth that mingled fact with folklore. It became a cautionary tale about the objects we choose to bring into our homes, about the unseen energies they might carry. It warned of the grief that could spill from canvas to reality, a sorrow so profound it seemed to transcend the boundaries of art and enter the realm of the paranormal. Today, the crying boy hangs in the shadowed corners of antique shops, in online auctions, and sometimes, still, on the walls of those who either do not know its story or who defy the curse to court disaster. Whether a true bearer of misfortune or merely a subject of one of the most unsettling urban legends of the 20th century, the painting continues to fascinate and frighten, a testament to the power of art to move desolate hills of Bridgewater Corners, Vermont, a chilling legend whispers through the icy winds. The story of the Frozen Hill people, a tale as bleak as the winters that shroud the region. It begins on December 21st, 1887, a winter so cruel that it buried the hills under an unforgiving blanket of snow and ice, sealing off a poor family of hill farmers from the rest of the world. What happened in their isolated home during those endless frigid nights remains one of Vermont's darkest mysteries. The family, so impoverished they could barely afford to feed themselves, was known for their reclusive nature. They lived high in the hills, where even the hardiest dared not venture during winter's peak. As the snow piled higher, cutting them off completely, rumours spread in the nearby towns. Weeks passed with no sign of life from their cabin, no smoke curling from the chimney, no tracks in the snow. The silence was as suffocating as the frost. When the thaw finally came, a few brave townsfolk ventured to the cabin, fearing the worst. What they found chilled them to their very cores. The family's bodies were discovered, eerily preserved in the ice, frozen in unnatural positions. Their eyes, wide open, seemed to stare with an unsettling awareness, as if they had seen something horrific in their final moments. The mother sat upright in her chair, her hands clasped as if in prayer, her frozen face twisted in terror. The children were found huddled together in a corner, their mouths agape in silent screams. And the father, he was by the door, his hands bloodied, as if clawing at the wood in a desperate attempt to escape. But what truly horrified the townsfolk were the signs that something far darker had transpired. Strange symbols had been scratched into the walls, crude and jagged, as if made in a frenzy. Furniture was overturned, and strange claw-like marks marred the floor, leading to the snow-covered woods behind the cabin. Some claimed they could feel an oppressive presence in the room, an icy chill that wasn't from the weather. The legend grew, with whispers that the family had summoned something during their isolation, something ancient, malevolent, and hungry. Others believed they had been cursed by the very hills they tried to conquer, the land itself reclaiming their lives as punishment. To this day, locals avoid the area, swearing that on cold, moonlit nights, the cabin reappears, its windows glowing faintly with a ghostly light. Hikers who stray too close have reported hearing faint voices carried on the wind, desperate prayers, frantic whispers, and chilling screams that seem to echo from the past. Some claim to have seen frozen figures staring from the shadows of the trees, their eyes unblinking, their faces frozen in eternal terror. The Frozen Hill people remain a haunting reminder of nature's merciless grip and the darkness that can creep into the minds of the isolated. Their story lingers, as cold and unyielding as the winters that claimed them, a warning to all who dare to tread too far into Vermont's frozen hills. In the chilling depths of Staten Island's folklore, a sinister figure known as Cropsey stalks the nightmares of those who dare to whisper his name. Originally conceived as a boogeyman to scare children into obedience, Cropsey evolved into a far more horrifying reality, merging with the true crimes of a man named Andre Rand, whose deeds during the 1970s and 1980s turned him into a living embodiment of the legend. The tale of Cropsey began as a ghost story, one that parents recounted during hushed evenings, a spectral figure lurking in the shadows of the woods, preying on wayward children who strayed too far from home. Descriptions varied, but all agreed on his ghastly demeanour, a disfigured face, haunting eyes, and a hook for a hand, dragging behind him the echoes of chains he rattled, a warning in the wind. As the urban legend grew, so did Cropsey's malevolence. He was said to reside in the ruins of the abandoned Willowbrook State School, a place already steeped in dark history due to its controversial past, as a residence for children with disabilities, subjected to horrendous conditions. Here, Cropsey found his sinister refuge, emerging under the cloak of night to chase the echoes of laughter with a hunter's glee. But the line between myth and reality blurred horrifically when children in Staten Island began to disappear in the 1970s and 80s. Panic gripped the community as the legend of Cropsey seemed to come alive. And then came Andre Rand, a former employee of the Willowbrook State School. When he was arrested in connection with the disappearances, the people of Staten Island were aghast to find that their boogeyman had taken human form. Rand was convicted of kidnapping, and the community was forced to confront the terrifying possibility that Cropsey was not just a tale to frighten children, but a real predator walking among them. Each trial brought more attention to the legend, each disappearance a grim chapter added to the lore. Today, the story of Cropsey remains a macabre token of Staten Island's history. The dilapidated structures of Willowbrook still stand, overgrown and forsaken, yet pulsing with the dark heartbeat of past atrocities. Those who venture near claim to feel a chilling presence, hear the faint rattle of chains, or see a shadow dart between the trees. Cropsey has transcended his origins as a mere boogeyman to become a symbol of real-life horrors, a cautionary tale that warns of the monsters that may dwell not just in our stories, but in the very heart of our communities. Tonight, let me guide you into the shadows of ancient Spain, where the chilling legend of the Castilian lisp unfolds. Relax, close your eyes, and let the whispers of history lull you to sleep. In the dark corners of Spain's forgotten history, a chilling tale has lingered for centuries, whispered among locals and passed down from generation to generation. Is the legend of the Castilian lisp, a haunting story that, while discredited by scholars, continues to send shivers down the spines of those who hear it. Long ago, in a time when kings ruled with an iron fist and the boundaries between myth and reality were blurred, there was a king unlike any other. His name has been lost to the shadows of time, but his affliction, an unmistakable lisp, would echo across Spain, leaving a trail of fear and confusion in its wake. The king's speech was strange, almost inhuman, as though something had cursed his very words. His voice carried an eerie sibilance, a sound that cut through the air like the hiss of a snake. The court, terrified of the king's wrath, dared not speak of his speech defect, but whispers of dark magic and ancient curses spread beyond the castle walls, infecting the imagination of the populace. It was said that the king's lisp was no mere quirk of speech, but the result of a sinister pact made with forces beyond this world. Some claimed he had bargained with a demon for power, and in return, his tongue was twisted, forcing him to speak in a way that no one else could. Others believed that a vengeful witch had cursed him, condemning his voice to forever sound as though it were tethered to the underworld. As the legend goes, the king was a man of great influence, and no one dared to correct his speech. Instead, out of fear, the courtiers and nobles began to mimic the king's pronunciation. His strange lisp spread like a disease, infecting the tongues of those who sought to curry favour with the crown. Soon, it was said, the entire kingdom spoke as their king did, their voices carrying the cursed sound of the theatre. The streets echoed grew up speaking the language of the damned, unaware of the malevolent forces that had shaped their words. Though historians have debunked this tale as pure fantasy, the legend persists, a chilling reminder of how even the most benign of sounds can carry with them the weight of a curse. The next time you hear the soft hiss of a theta in Spanish speech, remember the tale of the cursed king and wonder what dark power still lingers behind the sound. Welcome to the chilling tale of Mercy Brown, an urban legend from the quiet town of Exeter, Rhode Island. Relax, close your eyes, and let this mysterious story take you back in time. In the small, quiet town of Exeter, Rhode Island, during the late 19th century, the Brown family was plagued by tragedy. Tuberculosis, a deadly disease with no known cure at the time, had already claimed the lives of several members of the family. The illness was known as consumption, due to how it appeared to waste away its victims. George Brown, the patriarch, watched helplessly as one by one his loved ones fell ill and died. His wife, Mary Eliza, was the first to succumb, followed by his eldest daughter, Mary Olive, both taken within a few short years of each other. Despite these losses, George hoped the worst had passed. However, his youngest daughter, Mercy Brown, soon fell ill with the same symptoms. Mercy was a bright young woman, but tuberculosis did not spare her, and she died in January 1892 at the age of 19. Her death left the Brown family devastated, but the horror was not yet over. Just weeks after Mercy's passing, her brother, Edwin, who had been ill for some time, took a turn for the worse. Fearing for his life, desperate measures were taken, leading to the birth of an enduring legend. At the time, tuberculosis was not well understood, and in many rural communities, fear and superstition spread almost as quickly as the disease itself. In Exeter, some townsfolk began to whisper about the possibility of something more sinister. Could the dead be rising from their graves to drain the life from the living? This idea, while unthinkable to modern sensibilities, was deeply rooted in folklore at the time. In New England, there was a long-standing belief in vampires. Though these vampires were not the glamorous creatures of Gothic fiction, but rather the restless dead rising from their graves to consume the life force of their living relatives. George Brown, despite being a practical man, was persuaded by his neighbours to exhume the bodies of his deceased family members, hoping to find the cause of Edwin's worsening condition. In March of 1892, with the ground still frozen, a small group of men gathered in the graveyard where the Browns were buried. They first dug up the remains of George's wife and eldest daughter, but both had decomposed as expected. Then they turned to Mercy. Unlike the others, Mercy's body was found to be in a strangely preserved state, even though she had been buried for over 2 months. Her skin still appeared relatively intact, and there were even rumours that her body had shifted in the grave, as though she had been moving after death. The most alarming discovery, however, was the presence of fresh blood in her heart and veins. In the shadows of Terrell, Texas, whispers and warnings have woven a chilling legend through the generations, a tale that clings to the fringes of nightmare and reality. They call her the Candy Lady, but behind the innocuous name lurks a sinister spectre named Clara Crane, whose story has haunted the town for over a century. The legend began in the early 1900s, when children in Terrell started to vanish without a trace. Desperate parents scoured the land, dredging wrapped in crinkling parchment paper, with tiny notes urging them to come out and play. The notes were always signed with a simple, eerie C. Whispered tales from older folks traced the unsettling gifts back to Clara Crane, a woman once known among the townsfolk. Clara, they said, had lived on the fringes of Tyrrell, a reclusive and peculiar widow, whose only solace after the death of her abusive husband was her young daughter. Her life spiralled into darkness when her daughter mysteriously died, with local gossip suggesting foul play. The town shunned her, whispering that she had gone mad with grief, her mind twisted by the tragedy. Some said she blamed the children of Tyrrell for her loss, believing they had enticed her daughter into some fatal mischief. After her daughter's death, Clara vanished into obscurity, leaving only the decrepit shell of her home as a testament to her existence. But the story of the Candy Lady did not end with her disappearance. It was as if her spirit, unquelled by death or reason, continued to seek vengeance. The candies kept appearing, each piece an eerie invitation from beyond the grave. The most unsettling accounts involve letters found with the older children, written as if Clara herself were conversing with them from the shadows. These letters were more sinister, promising the children their fill of sweets in life and in death. It was as if Clara was crafting a congregation of souls, luring the innocent with sugar-coated deceit. Late at night, when the moon cast a ghostly glow across the fields, some claimed to see a figure near the edge of the woods, a silhouette of a woman in a tattered gown, her face obscured by the darkness. They said it was Clara, watching, waiting for her next child to claim. Those who dared to venture too close to the woods at night reported hearing the soft, unsettling melody of a lullaby drifting through the trees, only to be swallowed up by the suffocating silence of the unseen. To this day, the legend of Clara Crane, the Candy Lady, lingers in the air of Tyrrell like a thick fog. Parents tightly secure their windows, wary of the old tale, and remind their children to steer clear of the sweets that might appear unbidden. As Halloween approaches each year, the tension in the town tightens, a collective memory of the loss stirring in the hearts of those who remember. And so, the community watches and waits, the legend of Clara Crane etched deep in their bones, a spectral reminder that some tales are too chilling to be forgotten, and some spirits too vengeful to rest. In the shadowed annals of maritime lore lies the chilling tale of the floating coffin of Charles Coghlan, a legend as haunting as the sea that carried it. Charles Coghlan, a celebrated actor born on Prince Edward Island, Canada, met his end far from home on November the 27th, 1899 in Galveston, Texas. His body was interred in a stately vault in Lakeview Cemetery, where it was thought to rest in peace. But the sea had other plans. The following year, in September 1900, the infamous Galveston hurricane struck with apocalyptic fury. Winds howled like banshees, and the surging waves claimed thousands of lives, including the dead already buried in the earth. Among the storm's grisly victims was Coghlan's coffin, torn from its resting place and cast into the raging Gulf waters. For years nothing was heard of the coffin's fate until a tale began to emerge, one whispered with disbelief and dread. According to legend, icy waters, eventually washing ashore on the rugged shores of Prince Edward Island. There, it was said, his remains were laid to rest at last in the land of his birth, completing a ghostly journey of thousands of miles. Though modern accounts debunk the fantastical end of the legend, claiming his coffin was discovered in 1907, partially submerged in a marsh just 9 miles from Galveston, the eerie myth endures. Ripley's Believe It or Not immortalised the story in 1929, solidifying its place in folklore. Even now, the tale of Charles Colan's floating coffin remains a ghostly reminder of nature's wrath and the strange forces that seem to guide the dead. Whispers linger of his spirit still haunting the restless seas, a man forever tethered to the tides that carried him home. In South Korea, a strange and unsettling legend has persisted for nearly a century, a chilling warning whispered among families on hot summer nights. Beware of sleeping with a fan running in a closed room, or it may claim your life. Known as fan death, this belief insists that an electric fan left on overnight in a windowless room holds the power to kill, suffocating the sleeper in their bed. The origins of fan death stretch back to the 1920s and 1930s, an era of modernisation and new technology when the electric fan first arrived in Korea. Stories began to spread of people found dead in their rooms, the only constant a fan whirring beside them. The legend took on a life of its own, with families firmly convinced that a fan could drain the oxygen from a room, causing asphyxiation or lower body temperature to fatal levels. It became a superstition rooted in fear, and warnings echoed from generation to generation. Never sleep with the fan on, and always leave a window open. To this day, the fear remains ingrained in Korean households. In July 2011, the Korea Herald reported that a 59-year-old man had died mysteriously, with a fan aimed directly at him in his sealed room. It was as if the fan, silent and unseen, had become an executioner, waiting patiently for its victim. Some believe the fan spins like a sinister reaper in the dark, sapping the life from those who sleep too deeply under its cold breeze. Many scientists have dismissed the legend, but the fear lingers, and tales continue to circulate of those who ignore the warning, only to fall victim to the fan's deadly hum. The myth of fan death endures, a strange yet terrifying belief that leaves many cautious even today. Perhaps it's not merely a tale of superstition, but a reminder that some forces, once unleashed, carry a chilling weight that no science or reason can dispel. On the windswept shores of Cape Henlopen State Park, where the Atlantic whispers ancient secrets to the rugged cliffs, their brows an eerie phenomenon known as the corpse light. To the untrained eye, it might appear a beacon of safety, a lighthouse guiding weary travellers home. But to those familiar with its cursed history, it is a harbinger of doom, a deceptive glow that leads only to despair and death. The legend of the corpse light began in the fog-laden nights of the 18th century, a time when smugglers and pirates frequented these waters, weaving through the treacherous shoals and hidden reefs. It is said that one fateful night, a band of smugglers, heavy with illicit cargo, spied a light gleaming through the dense fog. Believing it to be the lighthouse, they steered their vessel towards it, hearts light with relief. But as they drew closer, the light mysteriously vanished, leaving them to the merciless embrace of the rocks. The ship was shattered, swallowed by the hungry sea, and all hands were lost to the depths. From that night on, the corpse light appeared sporadically, always to unsuspecting sailors, its ghostly glow a false promise of safety. Tales spread of a spectral lantern held aloft by a shadowy figure clad in the tattered remnants of colonial garb, doomed to forever reenact his treachery. Some whispered that he was the spirit of a lighthouse keeper who had conspired with pirates, others that he was a wronged sailor, seeking vengeance against those who sailed these cursed waters. Local folklore insists that to see the corpse light is an omen of impending disaster. Fishermen refuse to set sail if the light is seen, and sailors mutter prayers when passing the cape after dusk. It's not just the beacon that terrifies them, but the sudden cold that seeps into the bones at its sighting, and the inexplicable malaise that descends upon the beholder. On stormy nights, when the thunder rolls and lightning illuminates the sea, the corpse light dances across the waves, elusive and taunting. Some brave souls have tried to follow it, to uncover its origins or end its spectral wanderings, yet none have succeeded, and many have not returned, their fates whispered in hushed tones in the local taverns. The corpse light remains one of the most chilling legends of Cape Henlopen, a reminder of the sea's dark power to enchant and ensnare. It continues to haunt the coastline, a phantom lighthouse that guides not to safe harbour, but to a watery grave, its mournful light a testament to the souls it has claimed. In the eerie world of haunted relics, few objects instill as much dread as the Dybbuk box, a small, unassuming wine cabinet steeped in sinister legend. Originating from Jewish folklore, a Dybbuk is a restless, malicious spirit believed to cling to objects or people, feeding off their misery and fear. The Dybbuk box is said to contain just such a spirit, bound within its wooden walls, waiting for the next unfortunate soul to open it. The box first gained infamy when it surfaced in an online auction, accompanied by the chilling story of its previous owner, who claimed his life was plagued with misfortunes and nightmarish experiences after acquiring it. According to the tale, the box was originally bought by a young man at an estate sale. When he opened it, he found strange items inside: locks of hair, a small goblet, a candlestick, and engraved Hebrew inscriptions. But it wasn't the items inside that terrified him. It was what followed. From the moment the box entered his home, strange occurrences began. Foul odours of decaying flowers and ammonia filled the air. Shadowy figures appeared in his periphery, and the eerie sound of faint whispers echoed through the night. Soon he began having violent, unexplainable nightmares of an old, hateful woman lurking at the edge of his bed, her eyes burning with malice. Each morning he woke up feeling drained, as if the spirit had sapped his very life force. The Dybbuk box changed hands many times, with each new owner reporting the same ominous symptoms: unrelenting nightmares, accidents, and a pervasive, sickening dread. One owner even suffered a sudden stroke shortly after acquiring it, convinced that the spirit trapped within the box had cursed him. Eventually, the Dybbuk box was sealed away, kept hidden from curious eyes, locked behind glass to prevent anyone from releasing the evil within. It has since become a relic of fear, a cursed object housed with great caution. Paranormal researchers who dare to approach it claim to feel an intense pressure, as if the air around it is vibrating with a dark, pulsating energy, ready to burst forth at the slightest touch. Today, the Dybbuk box stands as a chilling reminder of forces beyond our understanding. Many believe that the box should remain sealed, for to open it is to invite disaster. The warnings are clear. Disturb the Dybbuk box, and you may awaken something ancient, vengeful, and impossible to escape. A spirit that seeks not just to haunt, but to possess and torment anyone who crosses its path.